a little loud in here. Meanwhile, power supply is probably going to kick on and off during this video. So I was looking at a printer online on Facebook. Somebody was selling. It looked like a piece of garbage printer, but it had two hot ends. It had one here and one here. And I got jealous. So I kept staring at my under 5 Plus. If you're going to do something like this, why not do it on the biggest printer? Which, amazingly right now, this is the best printing printer in the shop. So not usually that way, but the biggest printer, this thing is printing awesome right now. Regardless. I'm going to tear it down. You can see the parts just started coming in. We're going to make this thing 200 millimeters longer. We're going to get rid of this bracket, and we're going to use a very similar style carriage mount, except for this is going to be 2040 right here. And then we'll have this rail on the bottom and the other one on the top. So this aluminum bracket will be gone, so these belts won't mount on here anymore. Instead, on the back side of the bracket, on the front side of the bracket. On the front side of the bracket, there'll be a little spot, indent, that goes in probably about 20 millimeters, and it'll have a little inside, it'll have a recess for your belt and notched out for the teeth, so it'll fit in there. And it's somewhat recessed, and then a cover with 2 screws and 2 curl nuts will go on there. The curl nuts will be in the back. I'm going to start using those, and those will be mounted, embedded into the print, and that'll allow you to screw the cover on. It sandwiches and holds the belt up against the teeth that are in the mount. So you have one of those on each side. Very small, very simple, very effective. And it'll get rid of these little crimps on the end of the belt, and we should be able to get the belt and get all this pushed back closer to the rail. I was looking at it. I think there's room for that. So we'll have that. We'll also have a curl nut mount for the hot end, and I have a OMG V2. It's that real thin double gear 3-to-1 extruder you can get on Alley. I have 2 of those coming, and then I have the Red Lizard or whatever it is. It's very similar to this with a cutout bimetal throat, and I'm going to have, so the motor will be facing you, the back of the motor will be facing you, and then the extruder will be attached to the hot end with a fitting, and the hot end will be mounted to the back plate with curl nuts mounted in the back plate. Hope you're hanging with me here. So that'll hold all that together, and you'll have 2 of those. They'll be a little more narrow, and you'll have one on each side, and you'll have 2 belts. So you'll have a belt here, and then you'll have a belt on the 2040. You'll have another belt here, and you'll have probably the aluminum tensioners. I think I can make a piece where if I buy them, I can make them, and I'll have 2 knobs on the back to adjust each belt. And then here, we're going to build a little bracket that comes over around here, at least right here, and screws to this. The screw will hold it down. And then you'll have PLA. Well, first you'll have this cover. This piece that sticks up, be 4 millimeters, come all the way around right here, and it'll continue out here. But it'll also have a piece that sticks up, so it butts up against the edge of this, in between the belt where it can, to prevent it from going forward. And then your cover on your first one is going to be about half the size, right? And then there'll be a step, so your next motor will mount a little bit higher, and it'll mount onto the plate, and all this cover will morph into the piece that holds this motor right here, and we'll beef it up so it can't flex. And then that belt, it'll have a matching cover on the top, and the belt will come right across. Now for the chain, so for the chain, let's see if I can remember this correctly. All right, so the hot end will be over here, the other hot end will be over here, and it'll basically have this same chain setup right here, but this will be a double bay, so it'll be double deep. All right, so there'll be one bay here and one, another bay behind it. This chain will actually be in the back bay. All right, so when this hot end is parked, its chain will be in the front bed, and it'll be all laid out and put away and out of the way for this one to come out and do whatever it needs to do. So the chain problem is solved. We may shift this back. I don't think we'll need to shift it back. So let's see, that covers it. Now to extend the actual printer, we're just going to have to take all the rails that go the long way over to the drill press and drill and tap them. We have new ones coming. Then obviously our belt, our bed, these sides right here are going to go out 100 each way. So that means that this is not going to have its rail to attach to. So I have a couple options here. One is I'm going to have all these long rails that come off the Plus that are longer than the ones in the 5. I think they're 170 longer than the ones on the 5, so I could transfer them over and widen a 5. So down the road I could extend the 5 and do the same thing on one of the 5s. Because I have a 5 with a 1.4 in it, and you're talking about, this mod is not that crazy expensive. I mean, I'm buying a lot of stuff for it. I gotta believe by the time I'm done I might have 300 bucks into it, but look what I'm gonna have. Pretty nice. So, and I have all these rails right here that I can take over, put on the 5, have this rail, basically transfer all the stuff that comes off this over to the 5. And then I just have to worry about, the other actual carriage. So, right here, if we do transfer all this stuff over to the 5, we can take the little ones over to the 5, and they're not long enough to do what we want to do, but we could cut them in half, right? And then we could tap it out where the screw is holding the one. On each end of this rail right here, there's a screw. So we could tap out one of them for the screw, and then put a sliding T-nut in the other one, and then extend it out as far as we have to do it to hit the back rail. And it doesn't have to be super skookum. It could be an L bracket. It could be something we made. Don't know. That's the plan. So we have to engineer this part right here, which seems complex. I don't think it's going to be that bad. The other obstacle on this that I haven't totally figured out yet is we're going to have a really long double tray that sticks out twice as far. It's only going to be supported at the end. It's going to have to be double seamed because it's not going to be long enough to be printed. So, I say that, but possibly diagonally it might be 2 prints, but still it's going to be weak in the middle. So have a couple ideas of how we can get this thing a little more skookum. Possibly just in the middle of this 2040, tap in a couple of 3mm holes and just put a support there that we can somehow lock that or screw that bed into in the middle. Oh, also, I'm not sure if I mentioned, but so the motor will be facing you in the front, and the thin extruder on the back, and then somehow I have 2 fans, blower style, supposed to work with pulse width modulation. Um, One of them I want to try to blow into the bracket itself, down air channels that are built into the bracket, and have it come out behind the hot end. So totally want to do this so bad. Um, I'm willing to possibly sacrifice a little bit of this coming forward. I may not need to because I have room. There's room back here. Plus with the aluminum gone, I mean, I've got a lot of space that I can use for air passages, but that'll be pretty neat, air blowing. Um, so that'll be very, very, you can basically, you'll be looking at the hot end. There'll be no need to have a fan, and it's a fairly cool looking hot end, so you'll see the hot end. So we have some interesting ideas for the part cooling fan that I'll share with later. But it's going to be a blower fan that blows into a chase, and then the air is going to be delivered down to the part through flexible tubing. So, and not sure about what the deal is with the BL Touch. We're going to have to figure out how to do BL Touch on a double hot end machine. Haven't investigated, shouldn't be too hard to figure out. So that's where we're at, and parts are trickling in. We'll make it happen.